I came home from work and saw a chainsaw leaning against the splintered ruins of my cedar fence and my neighbor Karen, standing on my side of the property line like she owned the place, sipping her kale smoothie like she hadn't just committed vandalism in broad daylight. She didn't flinch when I stopped the car. Just pointed at the 10-foot hole in the fence and said, "You're welcome. Now I can walk straight through instead of around." I stood there blinking, thinking maybe this was a prank, or maybe she lost a bet and had to reenact a scene from a low-budget suburban thriller. But no, Karen had actually taken a chainsaw and cut herself a shortcut because, in her words, walking 60 extra feet to my driveway is inefficient. And before I could even ask what alternate universe she thought we were living in, she added, "Don't bother fixing it. Your fence is on my easement. I'm just reclaiming what's mine." Now I'm not the type to seek drama. I mow my lawn, mind my business, smile at neighbors, but something about the way she said reclaiming like she was Caesar crossing the Rubicon just flipped a switch in me. Not rage, not panic, just a calm, cold disbelief. Here's the kicker: her property line wasn't even close to that fence. I had the original 1987 property survey to prove it. She'd only been living there 6 months. Bought the beat-up house on the corner, painted it eggshell white, and suddenly she's acting like president of the imaginary HOA. She'd already filed 2 complaints, once for excessive grass growth, and another for a threatening garden gnome. I kid you not. I figured it was just the usual Karen antics. Until she brought out the chainsaw. I asked her, "Did you really cut through my fence just to save yourself a walk?" And she goes, "It's not your yard. It's shared open space. You fenced it off and pretended it was yours." And then she just walked off, heel turn and all, like she just delivered the final line of some neighborhood soap opera. I stared after her, then down at the 2 hostels she trampled in her boots, the ones I'd babied for 3 summers, and decided right then, I was done being the nice guy. I called county zoning and code enforcement. Turns out, not only was the fence fully on my property, but the easement she kept talking about. Total fiction. And here's where fate stepped in. That little grassy strip she used as a shortcut. It was technically a separate parcel that had gotten tacked onto her property during a shady refinance 2 owners ago. But, and this is important, she hadn't paid taxes on it for 3 years. The county was preparing to auction it off. So I bought it. For $117. I placed the only bid and walked away with legal ownership of the very part she chainsawed her way into. She had no clue. So while she strung up fairy lights across my broken fence and threw backyard wine yoga parties, I finalized the deed. Then came the war. I didn't rebuild the fence, I built a 6-foot privacy wall, clean, solid, and very, very legal. One Saturday while she was off at hot yoga, the crew came in and got it done. When she came home and saw her smoothie path blocked, she lost her mind. "You can't do this. This is my access point," she screamed. I handed her the deed folded neatly in a manila envelope. She scanned it like it might burst into flames, then looked up at me with that realization in her eyes. She knew the bluff had failed. But Karen wasn't done. Oh no. Next week, an inspector showed up claiming I'd built too close to a drainage path. But once I showed him the permit and the photos of her redirecting water into my yard, he shook his head and muttered, "Yikes." That same day, someone dumped compost in my driveway. No note. But the smell of desperation was familiar. Then I got a letter from her boss bench lawyer, demanding I restore traditional neighborhood access or face a nuisance lawsuit. I replied with a polite, 1-page letter, "You trespassed. You destroyed my fence. You didn't pay your taxes. I now own the land. Please forward all future threats to my legal counsel." I didn't have one yet, but she didn't know that. But the real twist came when I discovered her garage. Yep, the structure itself was partially built on another sliver of land not included in her deed. Left out in the 90s, no heirs, totally dormant. And wouldn't you know it? The county had just declared it surplus. Headed to auction. So I bought that too. A couple $100 and a signed document later, I owned the outer third of her garage. Didn't brag. Didn't even mention it. Just sent her a letter, either purchase this land from me at a premium, or begin structural removal within 30 days. She showed up in her robe, mascara smudged, eyes like a deer in headlights, and whispered, "You're harassing me now." I looked her dead in the eye and said, "No, Karen. This is real estate." Then she tried to sell the house. The listing was hilarious: cropped photos hiding the wall, the missing garage section, the access issues. But the part that killed me. In the fine print, buyer responsible for resolving minor encumbrance with adjacent parcel owner. Yeah. That was me. And then she got sneaky. An offer came in through a Shell LLC. But the registered agent, Karen's cousin, she tried to buy the land from me anonymously. So I countered with a number so outrageous it made her head spin. And a condition: I wanted her house too. That's when she lost it. Showed up screaming, red-faced, shouting about how I was ruining her life. I reminded her she started this the day she cut down my fence. Still, she had one more move. Filed a quiet title action to retroactively claim my shortcut parcel, hoping no one would notice. But I was ready. I showed up to the hearing with photos, letters, timestamps, even screenshots of our social media posts calling it my path to peace. The judge asked why I'd named it Karen's Shortcut Memorial Park. I smiled and said, to remind people that ignoring boundaries has consequences. Her claim was denied. That should have been it. But months later, I got another letter, this one from the bank. Karen had defaulted. The house was now bank-owned, garage still half gone, lawn overgrown. Her list of assets included exclusive garden access easement. The one I owned. Yeah, that happened. And now, where her shortcut used to be, there's a little park. I added a bench. A gravel path that leads absolutely nowhere just because I can. There's a bird feeder. A squirrel named Greg. A little archway at the entrance that says, "Boundaries make good neighbors." People sometimes walk by and ask, who was Karen? I just shake my head and say, long story. But if you've ever dealt with someone who thinks rules don't apply to them, who gaslights and bulldozers until the day they can't, well, then maybe you already know. Because sometimes the quiet neighbor isn't the pushover. Sometimes he's just waiting to buy the land under your garage. So what would you have done? Was I right to play her game better than she did, or should I have just let it go and moved on? Let me know in the comments, because in this neighborhood, everyone's got an opinion on fences, shortcuts, and justice.